I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I would also like to acknowledge the Venerable Sangha, ministers, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am honoured by the invitation to speak here today on the auspicious occasion of Vesak, the Buddha's birthday, and I also want to explore this image of the murmuration of birds. For thousands of years, people have wondered how it is that every day in certain parts of the world, tens of thousands of starlings can gather in the sky and dance and create beautiful shapes without bumping into each other. At different times, people have proposed different ideas to explain it. In 1931, the ornithologist Edmund Sealis proposed that it must come about through telepathy, that all the birds must think collectively, all at the same time. It was assumed that to do something so complex must require a very complex solution. The method behind this extraordinary patterned flying was discovered only 20 years ago when two Italian physicists used multiple cameras to photograph 4,000 individual birds as they were changing positions, and then used these photographs to construct their positions. What they found out was that each individual is only interacting with 6 or 7 neighbours. They fly in the same direction as the 7 neighbours that are closest to them, reacting from second to second, staying close but not too close. And the starlings have no plan, no leader, and no telepathy. Each one and their 7 neighbours responds to the 7 neighbours beside them. Each of those 7 respond to another 7, going on into infinity. So I'm using this example to put forward a model of collective action through small-scale interaction. If we think about the historical Buddha, his first teaching at Sarnath was to 5 disciples, just 6 people. But each of those 5 kept interacting with another small group who interacted with another group, and so on. The Buddha himself kept interacting with other groups who interacted with other groups. They had no television, internet, radio, or even texts in the very beginning. They just had personal contact. But from this base, the collective murmuration of the Dharma has taken shape over the past 2,500 years. So we are in a world where there is great trouble, inequality, a climate crisis, and even war in many places. How do we respond to that? I think the murmuration of starlings provides a model of collective action through small-scale interaction. If we can build peace at a small scale in our own communities, then that will have a flow-on effect. Peace is contagious. So how do we build peace? There is a wonderful term in Buddhism, the spiritual friend, the Kalyana Mitta. The spiritual friend does not have to be ordained, but they have to have certain characteristics. And I believe we can all aspire to be spiritual friends. What is a spiritual friend? Well, the historical Buddha described the Kalyana Mitta in this way in the Sigalovada Sutta in the Pali Canon. You can recognise a good-hearted friend who's compassionate on 4 grounds. They don't delight in your misfortune. They delight in your good fortune. They keep others from criticising you. They encourage praise of you. You can recognise a good-hearted friend who's compassionate on these 4 grounds. The Buddha spoke this matter. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, a friend who's a helper, one the same in both pleasure and pain, a friend of good counsel and one of compassion, an astute person understands these 4 friends for what they are and carefully looks after them like a mother the child at her breast. The astute and virtuous shine like a burning flame. We need to be there for our friends in the community, first of all as helpers, being aware of others' needs and finding ways to assist them. Second, acting as the friend who does not abandon others when they are in trouble. Thirdly, we need to be the friend with discernment who discourages others from making mistakes and encourages them to undertake good actions. We need to point out the way to bring the Dharma to life. Fourthly, we need to be sympathetic, rejoice in others' good fortune and protect our friends from gossip and mistreatment. It is an ordinary human failing to criticise others, particularly when they are not around, and give free rein to our anger, resentment and jealousy. But if we are to build communities, then we need to step back from these tendencies and also protect our friends from them. Peace building and community building doesn't happen without effort. It takes courage to step in and put a stop to malicious gossip. We also have an acute responsibility to be absolutely ethical in all of our dealings. In Victoria, a number of temples have had significant problems because of bad financial management or not keeping proper lists of members. This has led to division and conflict, and in one case, a whole temple was lost because of financial speculation in property. Building communities depends on goodwill and good ethics. If you are responsible for a temple, please employ a qualified accountant to manage the finances and avoid future conflict. It is always possible to think in very grand terms about great things, but the real challenges of life are here and now with those 6 or 7 people with whom we are directly in contact at any one time. Our good intentions and good actions with those 6 or 7 has a flow-on effect. It is our murmuration. Elsewhere in the Pali Canon, in the Upada Sutta, Ananda said to the Buddha, and Ananda was the Buddha's attendant, if you didn't know. Ananda said to the Buddha that Kalyanamita, good friends, companions and associates, are half of the spiritual life. And the Buddha replied, no, not so, Ananda, not so, Ananda. Good friends, companions and associates are the whole of the spiritual life. A mendicant with good friends, companions and associates can expect to develop and cultivate the Noble Eightfold Path. Let's think about our Kalyanamita and how we can build communities together. In Australia, we pride ourselves on being a diverse, multicultural society, and I represent the Buddhist Council of Victoria on the state government's Multi-Faith Advisory Group. We talk with government representatives on legislation that affects the different religious communities, and sometimes we provide input into legislation. In parallel, we, the members, are building friendships and supporting each other. We attend each other's festivals and temple openings. We work together on projects of common interest. Myself and a few others are also members of the Victorian Coroner's Court's Multi-Faith Advisory Committee, and we regularly meet at the court and discuss issues regarding the culturally respectful treatment of deceased persons. I am an active participant in interfaith dialogue and regularly attend places like gurudwaras, mosques and synagogues to participate in special events which may include giving talks on topics of common interest. About 2 years back, the Victorian government decided to outlaw the image of the swastika when used as a hate symbol. As you will know, the swastika is also a symbol of auspiciousness and peace in the Hindu, Buddhist and Jain religions. So we work together with the Jewish community on designing legislation which would respect the traditional use of the swastika while providing penalties for its use as a hate symbol. We created an educational program for each of our communities about its traditional use and the misuse by the Nazi Party in the 20th century and by neo-Nazis in contemporary Australia. This project led to good collaboration and new collegial relationships between all those involved. It also provided new understandings for our Buddhist community who may be unaware of the history of Europe in the 20th century. I think we all want to see a more peaceful world, and so we need to see ourselves as peace builders. If we have a very clear intention to increase the peace in the world through building good relationships and communities, then we will achieve that. I think that a lot of the time people do not take the opportunity to build peace because they lack confidence and think the aspiration is too great. But remember the murmuration of the birds. We only need to be in contact with a few people at any one time. If we have a clear intention to work through conflict and manage our relationships ethically and transparently and be a good spiritual friend, then automatically we will be building peace in the world. Good actions have a flow-on effect, a murmuration. Another way to describe the benefit of good actions to build peace is in an Indian medical model, the idea of Ayurveda medicine. I lived in India in the 1980s and there learnt the difference between allopathic Western medicine and Ayurveda, Indian herbal medicine. Allopathic medicine works with things like antibiotics and chemotherapy to kill the bad bacteria or cancer cells, and Ayurveda works to strengthen immunity and improve the basic goodness of the human constitution so that it naturally overcomes disease. I think that when we intentionally work to build peace and act as a spiritual friend, we are following the Ayurvedic model in that this works to strengthen the underlying goodness of the society. And by increasing the good, there is less place for the bad. So let us all work on increasing the good. Thank you again for this opportunity today.